Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. A van in 3 boats. Shiela Guo reveals to the Senate how she and her siblings managed to flee the country undetected. She also admitted that she and Alice are not biological sisters.
And Vice President Sara Duterte gets into a heated exchange with several lawmakers at the lower house today who grilled her about her office's use of confidential funds. The Commission on Audit also issues a notice of disallowance on 73 million pesos of those confidential funds.
And the standoff between the police and members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in Davao City continues even as a court grants a temporary protection order in favor of KOJC. A van and 3 boats. That's what Shiela Guo, sister of dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo, told senators they took to leave the country undetected. She detailed their escape route during her first appearance at the Senate subcommittee hearing on their escape.
There were also a few other surprises along the way, including the fact that, as it turns out, Shiela is not really Alice's sister by blood. Shiela was just sent here to the Philippines from China when she was about 16 or 17 years old to work at an embroidery business. Ria Fernandez with a big story tonight.
Alam mo kung saan kayo pupunta?
Hindi po.
Hindi ka nagtatanong?
Tatanong ko, ang sabi niya sa akin, sabi niya ate, nalulungkot ako, samahan mo ako, may pupuntahan ako, sabi niya.
Pero bawal ka magtanong.
Hindi naman sa bawal, hindi siya sinabi sa akin kung saan punta.
Alice Guo's sister Shiela admitted in today's hearing of the Senate Justice Subcommittee that she fled the country with her siblings Alice and Wesley. Shiela said they left their farm in Bamban sometime early July and took a van to an undisclosed port, arriving there around midnight. Shiela said she did not know where exactly they traveled to, but from there, they took a small white boat, then transferred to a larger vessel, and then another smaller seacraft headed to Malaysia. The trip supposedly took 3 to 4 days, and they arrived July 18.
Ilang oras kayo nung maliit na barko bago kayo lumipat sa malaking barko?
Matagal din, siguro hating gabi kaming sakay, tapos halos umaga na.
Umaga na. Tapos yung malaking barko,
Pero hindi pa masyadong kita yung
yung malaking barko ano siya? Pasaheroan, cargo ship, o fishing ship?
fishing ship ata, hindi ko alam kasi hindi
So,
ako malo.
fishing ship dahil may nakita kayong mga lambat at mga isda?
Yung lake na panghuli na fish.
Tapos yun na, dumating na kayo ng Malaysia through that boat.
May sasakay pa ulit.
Ha?
May palit pa isang ulit.
Palit pa uli ng isang barko. Anong description ng isang barko na
Yung
pinalit?
maliit naman na palang kulay blue or green.
Senators questioned why throughout the trip, Shiela never bothered to ask where they were going.
Tapos sumakay na kayo doon sa bangka na maliit, di ba?
Opo.
Hindi ka pa rin nagtatanong, saan tayo pupunta ate?
Galit siya sa akin, wag daw ako tanungin, basta samahan mo lang. Hindi ko alam kung yun ba yun, basta tanong ko, sabi ko, saan na tayo dito? Saan ba tayo? Ang sabi niya sa akin, Siempen na.
Okay, so at least we know yung
Yun lang
Chinese
po.
name na Siempen na.
Opo, Chinese name
Okay.
po.
Senators tried to piece together where this Yempena is, and they assumed she might be referring to Semporna in Sabah, Malaysia, which would corroborate an earlier assessment by the Bureau of Immigration that the Guo siblings passed through Sabah. Shiela said they stayed in Malaysia for around 4 to 5 days before taking a plane to Singapore. It's not clear how long they stayed in Singapore, but from there, they traveled to Indonesia via ferry and arrived August 18. Shiela said a woman helped process their travels, but that she didn't know this woman nor where she's from. By August 20, Shiela said she and her siblings had parted ways.
Ngayon, natanong ko, nasaan ang kapatid mo?
Hindi ko po alam. Last, sa Indonesia, hiwalay na po kami. Sabi lang siya sa akin, hiwalay lang muna ate. Tapos, tanong ko siya saan siya punta, sabi niya sa akin, wag daw ako alamin.
The Bureau of Immigration said that based on their latest information, Alice Guo has transferred from Batam to Jakarta, Indonesia. The agency is still working with their Indonesian counterparts to have Alice Guo deported back to the Philippines as soon as possible. Apart from tracking down the Guo's escape, senators now also have more reason to question Alice Guo's citizenship after her sister admitted having arrived in the Philippines from China only in 2001, when she was around 16 or 17 years old, even though it says on her passport she was born here.
Paano nyo namalaya na nasa Pilipinas kayo? Anong first memory nyo? Paano kayo na nakarating dito? Kasi ayon sa records, 2001 pa lamang andito na kayo sa Pilipinas.
Opo.
So anong alaala nyo sa panahon yun? Paano kayo unang nakarating dito sa Pilipinas?
Galing China?
I'm asking you, sinasabi nyo ba sa akin galing kayong China nung panahong iyon, 2001?
As it turns out, Shiela is not related to Alice by blood. She said Alice's father, Shiela Guo, was only her foster father in the Philippines. Sheila's real mother is still in China. Senators also sought more clarity on why they came to the Philippines as a family, but didn't get much.
Bakit kayo pumunta dito sa Pilipinas?
Sabi kasi ni Daddy, tulungan ko daw siya na business niya.
Si Guo Jiangjong, your father, involved ba siya sa Pogo?
Hindi po.
Si Alice Guo,
Wala rin po.
hindi siya involved o hindi mo alam?
Hindi ko alam.
Hindi mo alam kung involved siya.
As the Senate continues its questioning, Shiela Guo will remain in detention there to ensure her attendance in the next hearings. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
President Bongbong Marcos said he was kept in the dark about the escape of dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo, but he now has a very good idea who's behind it. Maricel Halili has that story.
There are no sacred cows.
That's President Bongbong Marcos's warning to those behind the escape of dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo. In an ambush interview earlier today at the palace, the president was asked if he had already been told of the possible accomplices in Guo's departure.
Very, very good idea. I have a very good idea.
From BI, sir?
From BI. Yeah.
How many are Ilan sila, sir?
Well, that's not we'll see, that's what the last part of this is. How far, how deep does it go? Isa lang bang tao ang involved? O marami sila? O sindikato ito? That's what we are looking at now.
According to Marcos, he was kept in the dark by those who were supposed to be monitoring the case. He added that the Immigration Bureau had known about Guo's escape since last month, but they failed to inform him about it.
Oh, yes, definitely. So DOJ, I was just with the secretary earlier today, is almost finished with a very thorough investigation, and we will identify all of those who have, all of those who are involved in this, and we will act very quickly.
It can be recalled that Guo snuck out of the country on July 18. She went to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore before returning to Indonesia. It was in Indonesia where Guo's sister Shiela and her business associate in the Pogo industry, Cassandra Ong, were apprehended. Alice Guo is believed to still be hiding in Indonesia along with her brother Wesley. Meanwhile, attorney Elmer Galicia appeared before the Senate hearing earlier today. Galicia is the lawyer who notarized Alice Guo's counter-affidavit. He previously claimed to have personally seen Guo at his office in Bulacan on August 14. But today, Galicia changed his statement.
Attorney Galicia, nakita niyo po, sinasabi niyo, nakita niyo po itong Alice Guo na ito na personal na pumunta sa inyong opisina?
Sa ngayon po, hindi ko na po masabi kung talagang siya yung nakita ko. Pero hawig po. Siguro error nga on my part, pero para po akong nagulat eh. Nagulat po talaga ako na makakaharap ko itong taong ito. Hindi naman po ako yung tipo ng tao na para puntahan po ng ganong klaseng mataas na tao.
According to the Justice Department, the law says the person requesting notarization must be sworn in front of the lawyer. But Galicia said that he did not ask Guo to get out of her car and go up to his office.
Parang nahiya po ako na pababain at paakyatin pa sa opisina ko eh. Kasi ang perception ko nga po, siya si Mayor Guo.
Senators questioned this since he initially claimed he had not been following the news and was not fully aware who Guo was. Galicia had two other lapses. He also did not ask Guo to sign the notary block and pay for the notarization. According to the Supreme Court, Galicia could be suspended or disbarred if it is proven that he lied. The SE says they do not need to wait for a complaint if a violation of the notarization process is proven. They can take action on their own motion or initiative, but that will depend on several factors.
That depends on what the court finds him guilty of. There's always suspension, fine, revocation of his notarial license, even disbarment. So let's see.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
And at least one person has spoken up to defend President Bongbong Marcos and his wife, First Lady Liza, after a photo of the first couple with Pogo player Cassandra Lee Ong went viral. Presidential envoy to China, Benito Techico, explained that back in 2020, Ong's group asked for souvenir pictures with the Marcoses while dining at a restaurant. The couple supposedly obliged. Ong and company went on their way, and that was it. Techico claims that the Marcoses did not know Ong and have no links with her or the business of offshore gambling.
I don't hope na it's political motivated. Ganun lang kasimple, ang storyang po yun, pumasok, nakipagkilala, at gustong kumuha ng picture at pinayagan, at after that, lumampas na po. So, ganun lang po siya kasimple na storya at hindi naman siya yung komplikado.
Now, speaking of China, the biggest disruptor of international peace in the ASEAN region. That's what Defense Secretary Gilbert Gibo Teodoro called the Middle Kingdom during the International Military Conference in Manila, organized by the United States Indo-Pacific Command. Speaking front and center and later on in the sidelines of the event, attended by military officials and diplomats allied with the United States, Teodoro said that Beijing's increasing aggression in the South China Sea needs stronger censure. And he is looking at the international community, particularly ASEAN members, to make that happen. Teodoro's remarks come a day after Chinese vessels blocked the BRP Cape Enhanyo and the BRP Cabra en route to Escoda Shoal. The two vessels of the Philippine Coast Guard were on a supply run and had to retreat after 5 hours of fruitless negotiation with the Chinese. Before this incident, on Sunday, August 25, Chinese Navy and Coast Guard ships also rammed and fired cannons at BRP Datu Sanday. The vessel was carrying personnel of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, and some journalists.
In this region, China, although without saying it, and I'll say it for you, is the biggest disruptor of international peace in the ASEAN region. ASEAN, slowly, we are getting some consensus, and conferences like this, you saw the ASEAN attendance. They are paying attention, and ASEAN, to remain relevant and credible, cannot continue to ignore what China is doing in the South China Sea. The antidote is a stronger collective multilateral action against China. And that is for our diplomats and other responsible officials to determine. While with me, I'm concentrating on getting our Defense Department capability-wise up to speed.
We're going to be pausing for a quick break, but coming up on the big story, lawyers of Pastor Apollo Quiboloy managed to get a TPO, or temporary protection order, from a Davao court. Gretchen Ho is covering the standoff there, and we will be getting some live updates from her. Don't miss that. Welcome back. You're watching The Big Story here on One News. Let's go on over to Davao City, where a court has ordered the Philippine National Police to cease actions that threaten the safety and security of Kingdom of Jesus Christ members. The Davao Regional Trial Court, Branch 15, has issued a temporary protection order, or TPO, in favor of KOJC. Now, this requires the police to remove its barriers that were installed around the church compound. KOJC lawyer Attorney Israelito Torreon personally handed the court order to Davao Police Regional Director Nicolas Torre, who refused to withdraw police forces from the area.
Pwede na po kayong umalis. Yun po ang order ng korte. Yung mga pulis ay inorderan po na umalis na po dito sa KOJC compound.
As we can see it in the protection order, never it is mentioned that the police stopped the implementation of the warrant of arrest against fugitive Kibuloy, and never was it mentioned that we will vacate the premises.
The Supreme Court has commented on the issue, saying that the PNP was ordered to remove all forms of barricades, barriers, and blockades that bar access to and from the KOJC compound and hinder petitioners' religious, academic, and proprietary rights. However, the High Court clarified that this does not deter the service of the warrant. President Bongbong Marcos, meanwhile, defended the deployment of thousands of police personnel to arrest the fugitive Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. The police command used some 2,000 personnel to enter the 30-hectare compound. The president denied that the operation was an overkill and violated human rights.
Meron bang human rights violation kung maraming pulis? I don't think so. The reason we did this was so that we could maintain the peace. The only way to maintain the peace is to make sure that the area is safe and is secure. And considering this is a 30-hectare compound, kailangan mo talaga ng maraming tao.
The police also said that he does not understand why Kibuloy doesn't just surrender instead of putting his followers on the front lines.
Hindi ko nga maintindihan kung bakit dinadamay ni Kibuloy ang mga tauhan niya. Kasi sinasabak niya yung mga tauhan niya. Wala namang kasalanan yung mga yan. They just believe they're looking for an answer, a value system, and they think they have found it with Kibuloy.
Gretchen Ho is currently in Davao, keeping an eye on the standoff between police and members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Gretchen was able to enter the KOJC compound today. Gretch, tell us, first off, what you saw there.
Hey, good evening to you, Sean and Reg. Now, after a turbulent Monday that saw crowds being dispersed from the front of the KOJC compound here in Davao City, the tide appears to have turned in favor of KOJC this Tuesday, for the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, as Davao Branch 15 Regional Trial Court handed down a temporary protection order, or a TPO, at 3:20 p.m. this afternoon. However, what exactly does a TPO mean? There was some confusion over whether the PNP will actually stop the serving of its arrest warrant against Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, who is wanted for qualified human trafficking and child abuse charges by both Pasig and Davao courts. He was also cited in contempt by the Senate. In the end, PNP Police Chief Romel Marbil says this is merely a TPO and not a TRO, or a temporary restraining order. Wala namang pinagbabawal at tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang paghahanap sa entrance na para arestuhin si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. I was actually inside the KOJC compound. I got the chance to go inside there, right in the middle of the serving of that order from the Davao Regional Trial Court. And it was already announced on social media, but had yet to be handed down to the authorities. That's why they were able to accompany me. The PNP was able to get me inside to be able to take a look at what was actually happening, because they say they wanted a third party or an independent group, independent force, to be able to check for themselves if there is indeed an excessive use of force by the Philippine National Police. Take a look at that. dito ngayon, nag-aalleluya sila. Kakagrant lang kasi ng temporary protection order. So ito yung eksena ngayon dito sa KOJC. Ito yung KOJC Kingdom. Nagdadasal yung mga KOJC members. Nagpapalakpakan sila ngayon. Samantalang yung police nandun pa rin sa gate, hindi pa rin umalis. So I think meron ng konting confusion kung ano yung sinaserve ng temporary protection order na yon. Cease and desist nga ba all operations or cease and desist lang any threat to life, liberty, and property and rights. So ito yung yung helicopter ng PNP. Patuloy na nagmo-monitor sa atin.
Where are they going from?
Media.
We don't allow any media here.
Ito po, ito yun
Excuse me, ask me meron pati dito.
Yun, so ito nga, titignan natin. Hindi, kakamustahin ko lang kayo actually. Hindi naman ako
No, we don't allow
Kamustahin ko lang kayo.
any media outfit, any vloggers.
Ayun, so yun, hindi naman ako... Medyo matindi ang emosyon ng mga kasama natin dito sa KOJC. Oo. Emotional na kasi yung pagtanggap dito. Pag nakita, parang medyo defensive na. Which, maintindihan mo naman kasi property nila ito, no? Na kung saan nagsiserve na arrest warrant. Tayo naman, ay gusto lang natin na ipakita kung ano talaga yung tunay na kalagayan dito. Sa ngayon, pero hindi pa tayo makakapasok kasi nga, kakaserve lang nung temporary protection order. Kailangan natin linawin kung ano yung bounds noon kasi ayaw naman natin makaapak tayo ng kahit anong legalities. So ito, pero makikita mo, ayan, naka-phone na yung lahat, oh. Naka-phone, may phone lahat, handa. Handa sila dito maging mobile warrior para sa kanilang kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Okay, Gretchen, andyan ka pa ba? Can you still hear me? I understand that the signal is a bit choppy. Okay, I think we have just lost Gretchen, but if you were watching that video, that was earlier this afternoon, sometime around 3 o'clock p.m. when she was allowed to enter the compound to check, in Gretchen's words, yung tunay na kalagayan, no, doon sa loob. Kung talaga bang may use of excessive force or what was going on. So at around that time, the temporary protection order, was handed down by the Davao Regional Trial Court Branch 15. And Gretchen was describing to us the hallelujahs that was going on around inside the compound. Of course, the members believing that their prayers have been answered. Okay, we'll try to fix that connection with Gretchen. But for now, we do not have her on the line. We have lost Gretchen.
And I'm back in the chair. Had to step away for a bit because I got into a coughing fit. But I heard the report. It was very interesting. So tensions remain elevated there, even though the KOJC supporters were granted TPO.
Last Thursday, I remember not last Thursday, actually, Friday. Marymon was there, and her report was about her being swatted away by members. No? Kasi ayaw nila ng media.
That's right.
They have this mistrust that we are not conveying what's really going on inside.
Right. We spoke to KOJC lawyer, attorney Israel Torion last night, and he said he first of all, he hadn't heard that the media were being harassed, and he apologized for it. He said, listen, if that's true, then I apologize on behalf of the members, and he said he will try to talk to them, to the followers and to the supporters, to not do that, because the media is just there to document what's going on, right? We're not trying to take sides here, and we're certainly not, trying to aid and abet any sort of operations. We're just there to document.
And as Gretchen said, she was allowed to enter. She was, of course, escorted by the police officers inside the compound who have been stationed there.
Yes.
Pinapasok siya. Pero again, napakalaki ng compound na yan. 30 hectares. And she's only covering, this is the area near the street. You will pass it if you've been to Davao and you're on your way to the airport. You kind of see these structures, especially the King Dome, the big dome, from the street level. I think we have Gretchen back on. Gretch, can you hear us? Gretch? We lost her again.
Last night as well, we were talking to PNP spokesperson Colonel Jean Fajardo, and as of last night, she said they had covered about half of the grounds within that 30-hectare compound. So I was curious to know as well, at this point,
Have
how
they
much
covered much more ground?
Correct. They're zeroing in on the bunker, right? They're zeroing in on a particular area within the compound where they believe Kibuloy is. They've used ground penetrating radar to detect the heartbeats. Although when we asked the PNP last night how they're sure that is Kibuloy, I mean, they said, of course, we can't be 100% confident, but that's...
They're just confident that there is a heartbeat somewhere
that there
down
are
there.
heartbeats, that's right, that there are people.
Anecdotally, additionally, Reg, people are saying that, according to the police also, that area where supposedly the heartbeats were detected, that was an area where a lot of the followers or a lot of the members of the KOJC were really protecting, and they were really not allowing access to that specific area. That's anecdotal and from the police.
I heard that from other reporters as well, that they're very... the PNP also said that actually to us last night, now that I recall the conversation. They said they were very, what was the word, defensive? They're
protective, I guess.
They were really resistant, that's it. They were, the supporters surrounding that area were really resistant to the police approaching them, and that tells them that something is going on there.
But again, no, this is, of course, an arrest warrant, not a search warrant that has been, in the works and active for a long time while they try to locate the fugitive pastor Apollo Kibuloy. Police forces have been in there since Thursday night, August 23rd.
Was it Thursday night or Friday?
Friday.
I don't remember
Friday
anymore.
early morning, that's right, because it was late night Thursday. So it's actually technically already Friday morning. And there's about 2,000 police forces supposedly sent to
that
Davao.
were used to enter the compound. You can see, I think that was from the first night, when there were clashes. And then the police were saying as well that it was the supporters who started it, that they started throwing bottles of water at them. According to Attorney Torion naman, it was the police. From their perspective, it was the police who started harassing them, that the supporters were just holding a prayer vigil rally, is what they call it.
To be fair, you could actually hear all the footage that you hear. You could hear prayer rally going on in the background, despite whatever's going on between police and members of the kingdom. We do have Gretchen back now. Gretch, hi, can you hear us now?
Ron, Regina, pasensya na, medyo nagkakaroon tayo ng konting technical troubles here. But going back to that video that you just saw, that was a rare opportunity to take a look inside at what was happening. And the reason why the PNP allowed me to go inside there is because they wanted me to see if there was use of excessive force being carried out by the PNP in the serving of their arrest warrant. And they wanted me to see for myself how the situation is, because the allegations against the PNP and actually the allegations against the media have been present. For one, the PNP is said to throw tear gas at the KOJC members. The members of the media being accused of being biased. So we went inside there to be able to converse and to be able to talk and correspond and to see for ourselves what was happening inside. But we did clear the legalities of going inside, and they say that it is legal to be able to be a witness to the serving of an arrest warrant. Yun nga lang, nagkaroon ng konting confusion over the TPO. That's why me as a member of the media, I decided to turn back in respect to the rights to private property by the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. But as you can see in the whole video, they were quite resistant to any other media apart from SMNI. They were telling me, SMNI lang ang pwede rito. Hindi kami nagpapasok ng kahit sinong membro ng media. SMNI lang talaga. And yun nga, given the state of things, it is quite understandable the height of the emotions. But also, I got that rare chance to be able to banter a bit with the members of KOJC, telling them that our role as an independent press is to be able to show the different sides of a story, and we needed their side. So medyo nabanggit naman natin yan. At paglabas, you could see that the members were rejoicing. They were singing Alleluia, saying prayers, saying victory, because the police, right after that moment, they started leaving. But I think when there was a little bit more clarity on what this TPO meant, they went back, but they also removed the barricades to the KOJC compound. Kinausap din natin yung miyembro ng KOJC if it was true that they were not able to get inside their homes because many of them live inside the compound, at mukhang totoo. 4 na araw, sabi nila, 4 na araw na silang hindi nakakapasok. Nakakalabas sila, pero hindi sila nakakapasok ulit. And that was where the sense of outrage was coming from, that they had their families inside that are not able to come out because they won't be able to get in anymore. So medyo nagkaroon ng easing of restrictions along the entrance, but I think today overall was a better day in terms of the tension between both parties, between the PNP and the Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Gretch, can you clarify, first of all, the movements of the members rather free now? Can they enter and go out? And right now, can you clarify for us whether yung mga barikada lang yung tinanggal, are the forces still within the premises, or have they also left or exited? And if so, where are they staying? These are 2,000 police officers supposedly.
Yes, yun doon nga nagkakatalo, kasi yung kahapon na nangyari doon sa protest rally na dinisperse ng PNP was because the permit that they had for the prayer rally was specific to the KOJC compound, which the PNP interprets as sa loob lang ng compound pwedeng mag-rally. Yun nga lang, nasa labas sila, therefore obstructing the flow of vehicles, the flow of people from the airport to the city. So that's why they were moving the KOJC members and nagre-react violently. Itong KOJC, sinasabi nila may permit kami, we were allowed by the mayor's office to be here. Yun nga lang, nakasulat doon mismo sa permit sa KOJC compound lang. And to your second question, nawala na yung mga barikada, yung mga side-to-side na policemen. They have actually stepped aside. They are still there. Some of the police force have been going in and out. Ang sabi sa atin ni Bok Edlingao, may nakita siyang bagong batalyon pumasok. Nagpapalitan kasi sila, nag-shifting sila dito. At dahil magdamagan nga yung paghahanap nila kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy dun sa bunker tunnels, at 24 hours nilang ginagawa yun, natutulog na yung iba dun sa loob. Na pinoprotesta naman ng Kingdom of Jesus Christ because they say that you have no right to inhabit our property because that is ours, kami yan. So I guess yun din yung pinagbabasehan ng temporary protection order, but the Supreme Court has clarified that the serving of the arrest warrant is not affected.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for those updates. Stay safe out there. Gretchen Ho reporting to us live from Davao City.
Over in the lower house, there was chaos this afternoon. Tempers flared during the hearing on the budget of the Office of the Vice President, with VP Sara flat out refusing to answer questions over her use of confidential funds in previous years. She even butted heads with the presiding officer, Representative Shiela Guo. Marian Enriquez has the full story.
At the onset, the budget hearing at the House of Representatives was tense. After the presentation of the Office of the Vice President's budget, VP Sara Duterte made it clear that she is not participating in the interpellation that comes after, notwithstanding the fact that as many as 17 House members have already lined up to question her 2025 budget.
I would like to forgo the opportunity to defend the budget in a question and answer format. I will leave it up to the House to decide on the budget submitted.
But lawmakers kept on pushing, insisting that under the rules of the Committee on Appropriations, a question and answer phase is a natural progression in any budget hearing. With that, ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro fired away and asked the questions that has been hounding the office of the VP. How did you spend 125 million pesos in confidential funds in just 11 days back in 2022?
On the budget for the 2024, yung Vice President na nagsabi, Madam Chair, na slow and low utilization. So nakita naman natin doon sa presentation. So yung utilization ay napakababa. Pero syempre comment ko lang, no, mas mabilis siya sa confidential funds. 100% in 11 days.
According to the Commission on Audit, the OVP had a notice of disallowance in excess of 73 million pesos from its 125 million peso confidential fund. This was spent on so-called reward money, tables and chairs, other supplies, as well as medical and food assistance. Congresswoman Castro says all this spending was illegal. This set Vice President Sara Duterte off.
I have also here a report about the notice of disallowance. According to the notice of disallowance, the COA disallowed 73,287,000 out of 125 million confidential funds used by the OVP in 2022. So this is 58.63% of the 125 million. So can you confirm?
Since you allowed her a snide comment, you will allow me a snide comment as well.
So my question is, can you confirm?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Diba?
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
So,
before you proceed, may I remind both our guests and our resource
You should have
persons
reminded her
to
when she said the
refrain
line, diba? I called your attention, Madam Chair. You did not recognize me. So, ngayon, sasabihin ko na, if you allowed her that, you allowed me a snide comment as well.
I don't recall hearing a snide comment, Madam Vice President. Ang snide comment, that's a matter of judgment. So please proceed
Secretariat,
with your...
Madam Chair, I would like the Secretariat to repeat the first 3 lines.
Point of order, Madam Chair, kasi parang...
So let's please proceed with the answer.
Point of order, Madam Chair, kasi parang siya yung nagpe-preside eh.
From this point on, the Vice President did not pull her punches and grew more antagonistic.
Yes, ganun talaga ang buhay, ma'am. Madam Chair, I do not understand bakit a person convicted of child abuse is still sitting in a seat
Point of
of the
order,
House of
Madam Chair. Ito yung sinasabi
Representatives.
natin na dinadivert ang usapan sa ating budget hearing. Kung nagawa po niya yan sa Senado, Madam Chair, dapat hindi natin yan pahintulutan dito sa Kamara.
I
Yes,
warn you.
Please wait
Don't go
be
to this rabbit hole. Why are we discussing the budget of 2023 and 2024? This is a hearing of the budget of 2025. Nasaan dito ang confidential funds? Yung tanong niya,
Madam
confidential
Chair.
funds. Nasaan dito? Nasaan? Sa presentation ko kanina, ang haba. Ang confidential funds.
The House Appropriations Committee leadership explained that in the letter sent to the OVP, included in the topics are the comparative budget allocation and utilization rate from fiscal year 2019 to 2023.
Kung ito ay dinisallow, so ibig sabihin, illegal yung paggamit nito,
Madam Chair, you cannot allow a member of the House to just claim that it is illegal. That is a notice of disallowance. That is a procedure inside the Commission on Audit. Hindi sa upuan niya.
Duterte also reiterated that she is not answering any questions that do not concern the OVP's proposed budget for next year. That sparked another round of intense verbal exchange.
Since ayaw magpaliwanag ang BP, so ibig sabihin nito, yung paggastos ng 125 million ay na pera ng taong bayan ay hindi maipaliwanag. So hindi pwede yung ganyan na yung tactics na ganyan na parang parang sorry for the pusit, na kapag nasusukol na ang pusit ay nagaano ng maitim na tinta. So wag naman mag-ugaling pusit ang Office of the Vice President.
The Vice President had an answer to the reference to squid tactics.
Bakit mo ako kinu-crucify for saying a fact that somebody is convicted of child abuse sitting in the chair? Pusit and then I cannot fire the presiding chair. So bakit?
Yes,
Bakit napaka one-sided nito, ma'am?
noted po.
Dahil ba madami kayo dyan sa kabila at nag-iisa ako dito?
But someone tried to come to the rescue of Duterte right at that moment. Her political mentor, former president, and now Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo.
To what I recall, when we want to question something about performance, we question the 2024 budget, not the 2023 budget. What is being questioned now is the 2023 budget, which was discussed very extensively last year. And that is the reason why the House removed the confidential funds. So that issue has already been, to my mind, for purposes of the budget hearing, laid to rest. So that's my observation, Madam Chair.
But Senior Vice Chair Stella Kimbo of the Appropriations Committee did not waver.
2022 pwedeng maging continuing pa rin 2023. At alam din po natin, last year pinagdebatihan po natin ng matindi itong 2022 confidential funds. And in fact, we left a homework for the COA. Sinabi natin sa kanila na kailangan nilang tapusin ang audit by November, I believe mid-November of last year. And since then, hindi na natin alam kung ano nangyari. So that's the reason for why tinatalakay natin ito, and it's a big amount of money. I believe we owe it to the people to understand what happened.
The hearing carried on well into the evening. For many of the questions, Vice President Sara Duterte just kept repeating over and over her holding statement about cooperating with COA on the audit and waiving the opportunity to defend her budget request, essentially refusing to answer the question. At some point, she also accused the lawmakers of conspiring against her.
That was the start of an attack against the Office of the Vice President, and i-hinge yung attack on the confidential fund use. So nakita na namin yung timelines and nakita na namin yung, kumbaga, script sa narrative ng attack on the Office of the Vice President with regard to confidential funds.
The OVP's budget briefing was deferred, and the House Appropriations Committee scheduled the next hearing on September 10. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
So after all of that, it was deferred to September 10.
Well, no, that's the second round. But I just want to take a moment here to paint a contrast between this hearing and last year's hearing. If we could just dig up the article from August 31, 2023, where you can see the headline says, OVP's 2.4 billion budget breezes through House. Keep it on screen for a second. Exactly a year ago, August 31, 2023. The first paragraph of that story read, it was a walk in the park for Vice President Education Secretary Sara Duterte as the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations terminated its budget deliberation on her office's proposed 2.4 billion budget for 2024 without even asking her a single question. That was last year. They approved her budget 22 minutes into the hearing. And last year, it was also Representative Stella Kimbo who was presiding over the hearings. 21 panel members last year manifested for the immediate approval of Duterte's. It was Representative Sandro Marcos pala who moved for the deliberation to end last year.
That was a year
It became
ago
an issue because Representative Sandro Marcos said at that time, in line with the long-standing tradition of giving the Office of the Vice President parliamentary courtesy, I moved to terminate the budget hearing of the OVP. Again, that was just last year, a year ago. Representative Sandro Marcos moved to terminate the hearing within 22 minutes. 21 panel members approved it. The only two people who rejected it were Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel and ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro, who, as we saw, butted heads again with Vice President Sara Duterte.
She probably did not get to do that last year.
Exactly. So that was the contrast we're trying to paint here. Last year, she was not questioned. So I get the point of Congresswoman Macapagal Arroyo on that. Leave issues of the previous years to the past hearings, right?
As we know,
this budget hearing is for 2025.
Exactly. I felt the same way because it does not look good when you keep hashing it out. I understand there's issues with the confidential funds, but that was in the past. And as we all know, or maybe it's not common knowledge, but this is a really bloody and difficult period for lawmakers because they really pull in a lot of hours just to pass the budget on
But the
time.
point as well is that they didn't get a chance to ask about the confidential funds last
Now all the
year.
questions are just bursting out of
That's
them.
why. And the difference this year as well is that COA issued a notice of disallowance for 73 million pesos out of the 125 million confidential funds, and that sparked a whole lot of tense exchanges as we saw.
Well, breakups are always tough. Right?
Perhaps reflection of the past months. President Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte saw differing results in the most recent survey conducted by the Octa Research Group. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. Based on Octa's survey, which was conducted from June 30 to July 5 and surveyed 1,200 respondents, President Marcos saw his trust rating increase to 71% in the second quarter, which is a 2 percentage points higher than the 69% recorded in the first quarter. VP Sara's trust rating, meanwhile, went down to 65% from 68%. Marcos's performance rating also rose to 68%, while Duterte's declined to 60% from 64%. This is the first time that Marcos has logged a higher trust and performance rating than Duterte based on Octa's survey in the last 3 years. Now, when asked about the survey, Marcos said he welcomed the improvement in his trust and performance rating as shown in the latest Octa survey.
It's good to have that kind of result or statistic behind you. It just, again, every time this happens for us, as far as I'm concerned, it seems to be people beginning to understand what we're trying to do. They're beginning to feel the effects of it. And so you must continue to do more and even try to do even better. So that's always an inspiration.
Let's try to discuss this further with Octa Research Fellow Professor Ranjit Rai, who joins us now live via Zoom. Good evening, Professor. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. It's a very heavy news day, as you saw.
Yeah, good evening to you, ladies, and to all our televiewers. And it's okay for me to wait. It was an exciting day for news all over the country. We live in exciting times and very tense-filled times. No? I mean, wow. What a House hearing, no? I mean,
what a House Senate hearing.
House hearing,
Senate hearing. There's bombshells left and right. But let's talk about the survey.
Which makes our survey look so minuscule in the great scheme of things. Our survey results, I should say.
but it's essentially aligned with what's going on politically, right? So tell us, to what do you attribute President Marcos's increase in the latest ratings, trust ratings?
Okay, so first of all, let me just state as a fact so it doesn't get weaponized by different groups. Most Filipinos continue to trust and approve of the performance of the president because they got more than 60%. So most Filipinos continue to trust and approve of the president, the vice president, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, their performance. Okay, and so that's the first statement I'd like to make. And number two, there's some nominal improvements. Okay, in the side of the President, his trust and performance ratings are much higher now than that of the Vice President. The trajectory of his numbers, the trends, which is I think very important for anybody who's observing this long term, his trend is moving up. In the case of the Vice President, her numbers have dipped for 2 straight quarters. Now, will it improve next quarter? It could, But the fact of the matter is, what's driving the President's numbers up in places like Mindanao, the Visayas, what's sustaining his numbers in balanced zone, which is quite high, whether it's trust or performance, and in the classes A, B, C, and D, is really government performance. In the case of Mindanao, there was a significant rise in his trust and performance ratings there, nearly 10%. So that I think can only be attributed to the government programs laying out, distributing resources, especially during the period of where we had massive El Nino. I think that, if government continues to do good and provide resources to stakeholders, I think it will continue to see an uptick in its trust and performance ratings. On the other hand, in the case of VP Duterte, there are myriad explanations on the politics, the noise. Her distrust numbers have actually, not trust, but distrust numbers have actually gone up. She lost ground in performance in Balance Luzon, in Visayas, and in the National Capital Region. So the goal for the vice president now is to continue to be politically relevant now that she's decided, she's resigned from a government portfolio. And I think she's decided to be a critic, no? And trying to keep the government accountable as far as its goals are concerned. But let it be known, no, that her trust and approval ratings are above 60%. So these are still very good numbers. Only that it's for the second straight quarter of decline. So her trend is, there's a downward trend as far as her numbers are concerned. Are these going to change? Yes, certainly these numbers could trend up. In the past, during the discussion of the famous confidential funds in the third quarter of 2023, her numbers went down, trust and performance, but they all recovered in the fourth quarter in December of 2023. But since then, it's been on a downward trend, close to double-digit declines since December 2023. Her numbers have been going down.
Right.
So
Professor?
this is the tale of two trust and performance ratings of two top government officials. But as far as Senator Chis Escudero and House Speaker Martin Romualdez, their trust and the trust ratings are above 60% and improving, very nominally though. In the case of House Speaker Romualdez, his numbers in Mindanao and Visayas in terms of performance improved, which was the reason why he was able to sustain his very good trust and performance ratings this quarter.
Okay, Professor Ranjit, this survey was conducted June 30 to July 5 of the year. As we know, the Vice President did resign from her education portfolio from the President's Cabinet on June 19, effective July 19. In your opinion, based on observing trends, right, you mentioned that the Vice President already saw a downtrend after the confidential funds brouhaha. That was a couple of years ago already. In your opinion, her trust ratings are now at 65 from 68, 3% or 3 percentage points down. Is that recoverable, easily recoverable, based on your observations?
Well, I think she can easily recover this. These are nominal declines, it's all well within the margin of error. But as a survey company, we did mention this in our press releases, which your TV station has a copy of, that while these are all within the margin of error, we observed these slight declines, these nominal declines. And when you look at the long view, the last 2 or 3 quarters, you get to see a trend. And that's important for us to also report that the trend is downward. And I'm very sure she can recover. These numbers are supposed to be guideposts for leaders. And, when you look at the granular data, what regions she suffered the decline in, mostly Balance Luzon, some parts of Visayas, no, and of course in class A, B, C, and in D. So she can adjust her strategies to recover. But then again, the key point the president made in his interview, it's performance that has a real impact on trust and performance ratings overall. If the government performs and does its job, doesn't take its eye on the ball, you can expect that the trust and performance ratings will be sustained. And these are really good numbers given how bad the times are. And in our surveys, we're seeing people really complain about inflation, about wages, stagnant wages, and really affordable food. So if the government can resolve these issues, I suspect that the next few quarters will see sustaining these gains in the second quarter.
But that's what's curious about it. I mean, you brought up confidential funds, and John was pointing that out too. Although confidential funds was an issue last year, and
Yeah,
the issue
third
kind
quarter of last year.
right. I was just digging up the old article from last year, where they started to question her confidential funds, but it quietened down in the past several months. In the past several months, I remember a lot of the issues we've been covering as you pointed out, inflation. Inflation was huge. Her resignation from the Marcos cabinet, the very public dissolution of unit team. Itong confidential funds issue basically is only starting to pick back up again now because it's budget season. So I'm curious as to whether that really played a factor in the survey results, and what does that tell us about how people perceive, the Uniteam coalition or the alliance?
You're correct in saying that it had no impact. I never said it had. So I was just merely suggesting that numbers do recover. The vice president has shown in the past her capacity to do well as far as trust and performance ratings. Emphasizing that in the third quarter of 2023, her numbers actually dipped because of the confidential funds, discussion, but then recovered in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, from January to today, I think the political noise in the case of the vice president has taken a toll. The breakup of the unit team, I think, is a big reason. Her resignation and the controversies that continue to hound her, the bad PR, at least the mudslinging that we now see in the political landscape. I think these have all affected the vice president to some extent.
Professor Ranjit, while we're on this topic,
but
right?
She continues to be politically relevant by being a critique of government, by continuing to do her work as a vice president, in her words, for the people. I think these numbers can recover because the declines are so nominal. So that's what I want to emphasize, because every group has a way of looking at numbers.
Yeah.
In Octa, we just want to show you how agnostic we are and objective we are as far as the numbers. These are numbers just for the second quarter. The third quarter is on its way. And what I merely want to emphasize is that it's performance for the president. If he wants to sustain those numbers, government has to perform. In the case of the vice president, I think a lot of the noise has to do with the political noise in the current context, the fight between the Marcoses, the very open fight between the Marcoses and the Dutertes. No? I think it's going to get worse, before it gets better. And I don't know how she's going to really work her way there. How she can be politically relevant despite the fact that she's really out of government and be really outgunned and outmatched everywhere, especially in social media. So that's a challenge for the vice president at the moment. And if she continues to be hounded by these controversies and be unable to explain her side, it will be hard for her to recover. But I believe, given how nominal the declines are, really, she can still recover, and it really has to do also again with performance. She has to become politically relevant. For that to happen, she has to continue the program she started as vice president.
Well, we'll see what the last 4 months of the year brings us in terms of political news.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for explaining that to us, Octa Research Fellow Professor Ranjit Rai.
Thank you for.
All right, massive Tuesday.
Heavy news day.
I
We
know.
haven't had one of these in such a long time.
And this was all throughout the long weekend, too.
That's right.
But the good news is, at least for you, Regina, that's it for the big story tonight. We are One News, all sides, all the time. We will be back tomorrow.
The good news, because I was couldn't contain my cough there for a bit. Thanks for watching us, and have a good night.